All right, we are live. I'm waiting for it to show up on the business page. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Marina. First one here.
Woohoo!
Woo! Welcome to Weekend Wind Down with business coach Nancy. I coach interior designers and other creative entrepreneurs, as most of you guys know. Today, I'm drinking Sterling Vineyard Napa Valley Chardonnay, and I'm so excited for this broadcast today. I'm here with Julia Molloy. Julia, why don't you introduce yourself while I start sharing and show them what you're going to pop open for.
Very good. Well, I'm Julia Molloy. I'm also a business coach for the interior design community exclusively. I work with interior designers on efficiency and workflow, getting their operations smooth and efficient and profitable. And then I also help interior designers to up-level their brand, really authentic, kind of attracting that higher level clientele. And I also produce the Bold Summit, Business of Luxury Design Summit every year or so, which some of you might have heard of. And I still have to open it. You guys get to open it with me.
Yes.
I brought La Marca. I've got some Prosecco, of course. I like my bubbly. And it's La Marca. Can you see that? La Marca.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Not really.
A little closer to the camera. There we go. Got it.
Yeah, La Marca. Hey, this stuff is fabulous, and it gets like a 97 out of 100 rating. So it's my everyday go-to. Not that I drink it every day, but
I was going to just say,
if you drink something every day, this would be what I would drink. So I'm opening. And thank you so much, Nancy, for inviting me on your show. I've been enjoying your show for quite some time. I get a kick out of you, man. You're adorable and funny and super smart, and you're awesome. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, I started out this whole show on my personal page, and then at one point, I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of doing it from the phone. I want to have the guests, so I switched over to this Be Live, and I'm doing it from my business page. And you know what? It's more relaxing for me. So as you pop your champagne, and we'll here's to that.
So I have a confession because I am a little scared of the pop. Okay, here it goes.
Away from you.
Towards the window.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh, here it's going to go. It's going to go.
Woo! Nice. Oh, I'm glad it didn't overflow. That would not have been good to be near your computer.
Oh, very good.
Woo!
All right. I have been waiting for this all week. Really. I'm not even joking.
Before it overflows. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, you're going to have all foam.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't really pour that very well, did I?
No, I think you're supposed to tip the glass.
I really should be a pro at this by now.
I am a pro at my wine. I really am. Love my wine. So cheers. Welcome to Weekend Wind Down.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, Mark. Thought it was a mic for a second.
That was so good.
It's Friday, and it's a 3-day weekend.
Yay! What
Not that us entrepreneurs stop working, but a little bit at least.
I'm trying. I'm going to try.
Any fabulous plans?
What do you have live?
Who do I have live right now?
No, like what do you have on the... Oh, I'm going to share.
Yeah, you share.
I'm sharing.
Well, I tell everyone why particularly... Listen, I my son says I want Prosecco. I particularly wanted you on because a few weeks ago I called you and I said, you've got this great spreadsheet that I think a lot of my clients could use. And we started talking about pricing and how the interior designers are pricing their jobs and how so many of them are not profitable and how they can become more profitable. And we discovered that we kind of teach a lot of the same profitability model when it comes to pricing. And for those who are very analytical, that spreadsheet that you have is golden. So I thought, let me talk to you about it and have you explain it to everyone and just kind of like why you developed it, what it does for people, and then let's just talk about how they can price for profitability better than they're doing today in many ways.
So one of the things that I've just been so impressed, obviously, with you. And one of the things that I love about your approach to business and coaching is that you're very level-headed and like kind of factual, tangibles,
Yes.
which I like that. It's what everyone needs, all those creatives out there, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that you coach on is the gross profit margin based billing versus the billing model. And this is something that I've been working on for the last few years, because as the revenue model has been shifting over the last few years, it's become imperative to base your pricing not on the standard billing models that we used to go by, 15, 20 years ago. Because that used to be like, time billing plus 35% markup, and that was the billing model. And then, the recession hit, and then it was kind of like, well, people are asking for flat fees, so I'll do flat fee. And then everyone's like, well, I don't know what to do because I lost my tail and flat fees. I can't do that. And I don't know time billing. People,
right.
Like,
well, it's also flat fee is still somehow based on time billing. So if you're not charging enough for your time and you're not really calculating how much time a job is taking you, because you're not doing the audit at the end to find out, was this job actually profitable? Exactly. You're starting from scratch every time, basically pulling your numbers out of a hat.
Yeah. And you're absorbing in the flat fee model. I've never been an advocate for flat fee in and of itself without a lot of parameters to kind of kick you over into the billing model if it goes over X, Y, and Z. The reason why is because people are absorbing all that risk. And as a business owner, it's your job to mitigate risk, not to say, oh, well, I'll just absorb it if, there's mold in the walls and the contractor messes something up and this happens, the project is on pause. And like, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. And so everyone's been like, well, how do I price? How do I know if I'm making enough money? And so a couple of years ago, I invited Mark Malinsky of Designer Advantage. Do you know Mark?
I don't know Mark, but Designer Advantage has recently come very much in my face.
Me too. They're kind of coming out, and I'm like, that's what I've been telling you guys. And I've heard good things. So they're definitely a viable option. But Mark has been working with interior designers for over a decade, almost as long as me. I mean, he's been out there for a long time doing accounting and like the bookkeeping, expediting, all of this stuff. So he has this huge database of interior designers' numbers. And so I said, hey, will you come on and help answer some questions? Like, what are the milestones? What are the targets? Like, what should designers be at? Like, give us some metrics. And right. So I interviewed him a few years ago, and basically he said, okay, the target to hit, whether you're doing flat fee, hybrid model, time billing, whatever, all in, by the end of the project, the number to hit is 40% gross profit margin. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Okay, that's what we needed to know, because otherwise we don't know, what we're trying to hit. And right. So with that metric, I was like, okay, so I don't know about you. Maybe you're a lot better at math than me, but I'm not that good. And like trying to figure out what is 40%. First of all, it's just confusing. Like you're taking your total revenue, dividing it by your total cost. And that's your, like, I don't know. I'm like, that's hard. So
it's hard to do it right.
Yes. Yes.
Right? You can do it very off the top of your head, like your consult fee plus your design fee. And if you're hitting about a 43% markup on your furnishings, well, it'll give you a 30% profit margin. But then did your design fee and your consult fee minus your cost.
Yeah, and all your payroll allocated to that. Like it's a very complex, interior design is one of the most complex business models out there. So that's why I tell my designers, I'm like, it's not you. It really is that hard. It's a very complex model. So anyway, I'm like, you know what? I need a tool. I need to figure this out, because people are like, well, literally every time you get more than 2 or 3 designers in the same room, what are they talking about? How do you feel? How much are you charging? What do you know? And I'm like, okay, that was the right question to ask like 10 years ago. How you're billing is not the question to ask anymore, because profits on on your product are going down. They're changing, and it depends on where you are in the country. You know, like if you're in New York, you're probably doing flat fee. If you're on the West Coast, you might be time billing. A lot of people are adopting the hybrid model, which is what I recommend and kind of put out there to the industry a few years ago. I say, who cares? I don't really care.
Okay, how you're charging, just make sure
you charge. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you need to be hitting 40% gross profit margin. So I developed this tool, and it took me, I mean, embarrassingly so, but I mean, I'm kind of like just developing it out of my brain. So it was a lot. And I developed this very complex tool. It took me 3 Excel gurus to actually get all of the equations.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, you saw it. It's like got 20,000 equations in it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And what numbers feed into what numbers. And I do feel you have to have still a little bit of a numbers brain to just even look at the spreadsheet without getting overwhelmed, right? Yes. But if you can get past that and realize there's only certain fields you have to look at, you made it very easy. There's only certain fields you have to fill in, ignore everything else that's going on automatically.
And I made those fields a special color for you. So
you did.
Look at the colors.
Look at the color and then figure out, just look at the boxes you're supposed to fill in.
Exactly. Figure that out. Like this little pie chart. Yes. You know, and so it's not so bad once you kind of get walked through it. It's not so scary. And I'm not like that numbers person. I gloss over. I'm like, dyslexia. You know?
Yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, walk away. I'm a numbers person. I used to be in banking, but I did have to walk away and come back and go, only look at the color, right? Because my boyfriend does a lot of the Excel spreadsheets that I create because he really knows Excel well. And I was like, wow, a ton of work went into this, a ton of testing, a ton of thought. It's really very intricate, but if they use it right, they will come up with the number they need to charge. But then it's still about being able to sell it with the words you use to your client, which is still, right, a newer designer. Oh, by the way, hi, everyone. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Julia. Hi, Joy. Hi, Katie.
Hi, everybody.
And everyone else who's watching. Do me a favor, guys. Share this broadcast because this is going to be information-packed for anyone who's an interior designer, who has interior designer friends. Share it for us because I think it's going to be really important for them to hear what we're talking about, because even though it shouldn't be an issue anymore, Julia, like you said, it still is, because you have newer designers who don't have the confidence yet to build. They're still shopping retail instead of going to designer resources. Hi, Michelle. They are getting their confidence up, developing their sourcing connections.
Right.
They're not there yet. So they might still be doing hourly, kind of getting their design feet wet. And then this is the creme de la creme. This is how you would charge in order to make sure you have that 40% profit margin on every job, even though every job is different. Some have construction. Does this do commercial? I didn't even actually look for that.
No, all of the tabs, like at the bottom, there's a tab for each kind of room. And I did residential only, but it's like this grand estate. I mean, there's a pool room and a staff room, a housekeeper, you know. It was like, I wish I lived in that house. But I didn't do one for commercial because the variables are so broad. Like it can be, you know, a hospitality, it could be a restaurant, it can be an office space. Like it was just too much. So I figured just rename the tabs, you know, and rename some of the things. And also most of the people using this are not going into the tabs. There's like that general tab where you can just put the overarching numbers all in. You don't have to break out every little thing for every room. Most people are just using that one tab and kind of figuring in like everything. And that's easy. That takes 10 minutes. Yeah.
That's what I like.
I wanted to put everything in there though, so that the person who really wants to even use it for budgeting or whatever, they have the capacity to do it. So it's there to go as deep as you want. But the whole underlying thing is that I don't want people to start thinking about billing in terms of their billing model. I want them to figure out their number, what they need to make, and then figure out what billing model is going to be A, most profitable, and B, able to sell it to the client. Like if they're asking for flat fee, you're probably going to have to deliver it in flat fee format because they're not going to change the way they're thinking about paying for the project. But in the past, you just had to kind of guess at what number that needs to be. You're like, like a dartboard, like, woo, And I'm
I think that's going to take me. I know one of my clients, and I love it, that, analyzes past projects and has the reference. Okay, when I did this project, this is how many hours it took me, and this is how much my design fee was, and is able to reference past jobs. So for those of you who are listening who have never analyzed, done the post-mortem on a job to say, how many hours did it take you? What were your costs related? Did you travel? Did you not? All hours, all in for you, an assistant, office staff, everything. What did it actually come to by way of cost? And then how much did you actually make in profit? And you might be surprised that it's not as much as you need to stay a viable, profitable business.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was kind of the magic too, because once you see the numbers and you're like, oh God, I'm only at 32% gross profit margin. One of the cool things is then you can play around with it. Like, well, what if I increase my markup by 3% and I increase our billable or billing rate to, by $10? Does my percentage go up? So you can play around with it. And then the other thing too is you might plug in that number that gets you to 40% gross profit margin, right? And then you're like, there is no way I can charge my client this.
Right. Panic sets in.
So then all of a sudden you're dealing with reality though. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, so I know I need to increase my profit margin by 7%. Okay. And I know in order to do that, I need to go from, $125 an hour to $150 an hour. And if I can do that, then I'm going to get over that 40%. So at least it's a tangible, know-how, your growth trajectory. And then you're like, well, I need to either increase my efficiency or I need to play up my, up-level my branding so that I am more powerfully attracting my ideal client with higher budgets and not playing the whole pricing online. You can buy it on Wayfair game with people because you're never going to win that one.
Right.
And work your way up to a point where you are hitting that 40% and you're grooving, right?
And negotiating with the vendors. I was an art consultant for 15 years. If I found I had to sell something at less than what I wanted to, which I rarely negotiated. I'm not a negotiator. It's just like, no, this is how it is. I probably said it a little nicer for any one of my old clients who might be watching. But if there was a very large job and I needed to give a little bit on the price, I'd call the vendor and say, if you want to sell this large quantity, you need to do something with the price. And you'd be surprised how sometimes if you stick to certain vendors on an ongoing basis and you create that relationship with them, they do have some leeway in their pricing at times.
Yeah.
And it's worth creating that relationship and negotiating with them. And that is another way to increase your profit margin. And I liked what you said about becoming more efficient. I have designers who will tell me how long it takes them to source. And I'm like, why? Why is it taking you that long? Are you striving for perfection? Or are you striving for excellence? And there's a difference, right? You have to sometimes set a timer and say, this is how long I'm going to, because how often do you go back to the very first or second thing you found instead of spending five more hours looking for that perfect?
People are crafting their own online directory. So when you're shopping for somebody, and you find this great light that can't work for this project, but you're saving it into a folder of B-level modern chandeliers, and then you go straight to that. So there's all these little tricks to getting that efficiency level up. One of the things that I've been recommending for a while now that it really does work is Wecora, Wecora. And that's been great for the concept phase. The online board, you can, click and drag it from the folder where you found it online. You click and drag it onto the board. You can scale it, skew it, and put little thought bubbles and collaborate with the client right there in that interface and, hide all the pricing from them. But when they say, yeah, I do want that sofa, you just click on it and it takes you right back to the website where you found it. So
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And
so you don't have to go, wait, that was Kravit, that was, like that saves time.
But does Designer Advantage have that too?
Not to that extent. Like the online board isn't quite what it is. And MyDoma has that too. So there are, and which is cool. It's challenging right now because there are so many technologies kind of really developing. It's a very disruptive time in our industry. So, it's kind of challenging because you're like, should I switch? Should I stay? And I'm like, well, for the most part, if you're happy where you're at, it's probably not the best time to switch because it's going to be evolving so quickly over the next few years. It might not be strategically advantageous to go through all the disruption, the time it takes to switch until it settles out a little bit,
I agree. Stay where you are for now. There are so many other companies starting to sneak in. And, someone like MyDoma is making rapid changes to their software in order to be a full service package also, right?
Exactly.
And Ivy's making changes, and now Designer Advantage is coming up, and they have their strengths.
Webware is doing version 2.0, Design Manager, and Design Logic. Design Logic, I checked it out. I was talking to the owner the other day. They're pretty darn good. I mean, that's a really strong platform, and I wasn't even really considering them, but I was like, "Dang, this gets you really far. It's really good." So
I think what we need to do webinars with all of them.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
Right? If we do it together, we ask them all the questions that we think anyone's going to ask.
Let's do that, Nancy.
Let's do that because there are so many, and I want them to be able to say their strengths, but also say, possibly what they're working on and how long it's going, because they all come at it at a different angle. And I think that's what's so frustrating for some people. So Designer Advantage comes at it from the accounting side, which is so appealing, right? But they may not be as pretty in certain areas. But is pretty what you need, or can you fill in with that other program you said?
It's always, no matter what option you choose right now. And I work with firms that are in every permutation of everything from, Peachtree to Ivy to Studio Webware I've worked in everything. And I can tell you that there is no one solution that does all of the things that they need to do. And I have been talking to the different, sometimes they call me because I've established kind of best practices in terms of workflow for the industry. So like Ivy reached out, I work with Studio Webware, Design Logic. And I've been telling them, these are the things, like check these boxes off, all of them. Even if you have to partner with another tool, like you don't have to make friends. It's good. Share.
Well, Ivy just did that. Did you see Ivy and QuickBooks created a collaboration? Did you get that email?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. So, I mean, they actually, and of course, women developed, and we tend to be more collaborative in terms of our leadership style. So that makes that I'm not surprised.
Right.
I think this whole collaboration thing where people like take your strengths, mix it with mine, peanut, add the peanut and then the jelly and peanut, let's go. It's all good,
I'm kind of thinking Cracker Jacks, but I might be aging myself.
No, I'm right there with you, girl. So yeah, none of them click all the boxes. But efficiency, if you're a firm that's using a software that doesn't have the client concept phase platform embedded within it, just use Wacora as a good one because it's great.
Spell that for everyone.
Wecora. Wacora.com. Stephanie and her husband are the owner. Super nice. And when you onboard, they actually do it with you. Like you can't just get it and try to do it yourself. They actually have a person that says, okay, let's build your first board,
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And tell them I sent you because I don't know. I don't know if I get a referral fee or not, but I know that Stephanie, whenever I send anybody over to them, they take special note because they know it'll get back to me if they suck.
At least thank you. Well, you know what? Afterwards, you can put the link in there also.
Oh, okay.
Right? But okay, so now go back to talking about your spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
okay. Because we digress, and we could talk for hours about this business because it's so intricate. So again, hi everyone, but Weekend Wind Down with Nancy and Julia this week.
I'm like halfway done with mine.
Yeah, well, look at me. Starting off the 3-day weekend right.
God, that tastes so good.
Oh, I know. I love Weekend Wind Down. Oh, before I forget, and if someone doesn't watch till the end, I'm going to 3:00 next week because I'm going to see Donna Summer, the play, on Broadway with a bunch of girlfriends.
Fun!
I'm so excited. So I'm having Deborah DeMar, vegan designer, on next week, and we're going to be winding down a little early. By the time I get on the train, I'll be like, "Woo, I'm ready."
Hey,
ready to sing some Donna Summer songs
before the show.
Yeah. As my kids would say, I'll be pre-gaming.
Yeah. Oh, pre-gaming, is that what that's called?
That's what it's called. Pre-gaming.
In our office, whenever we do something, like this with libations, we are technically team building.
Of course you are. I'm going to come in virtually next time you're team building.
Yeah, we're team building. It's time for some team building.
All right. So on your spreadsheet, that helps them figure out how much to charge a client to be at 40% profitability, gross profit
margin.
Tell them what fields they would have to fill in.
Okay.
In order to figure this out.
Yeah. And it does all the calculations for you. So you just put in your metrics and then it kind of figures it out in each billing model, what it would be.
Metrics.
And with a nice little pie chart for each one. So you can kind of see, flat fee, I would make this, hybrid model this, time billing, I'd make this. Oh, I like that one. You just pick and choose and it's pretty visual. But what you need to know is who's on the project. So you put yourself and then like your junior designer, expediter.
Okay, I have a problem with this. Junior designer. Mm-hmm. Unless they were a very large firm and the junior designer is literally being assigned to the job almost from the beginning and following it through, I don't see why they have to charge less for their junior designer. It's an assistant to them who has the knowledge of a junior designer. Why should they not charge full company rate if they're figuring out based on their hourly?
Okay, so I have a theory on this, just based on patterns I've observed. And I do have firms that charge one rate, and that's all it is, and that's fine too. But one pattern that I've noticed is because the junior designer is doing things like running to go get poles or getting the felt bottoms or, returning a memo sample or picking up, returning fabric samples and like little stuff. What I find is that when designers are charging the $200 a rate kind of thing, they don't feel like it's equitable. And I would tend to agree. Like, I don't want to spend $200 an hour for, returning a fabric sample to the showroom, just as an example. But if they are charging less for their time, they tend to charge for every hour, instead of going, it's a little bit high. Why don't we take off a couple hours? So I found like they kept shaving off instead of just being like, they spent 2 hours on it, so I'm charging 2 hours for it, done. Also, the other compensation thing that ends up happening to compensate for what feels a little bit bloated, I guess, overly like inequitable, is what they do as the principal designer is they lower their rate. So, I actually don't think that's strategic in terms of people valuing the principal designer's time.
Right.
So I think it's better and actually tend to get less pushback on your invoices when you say, if it's me, then you're going to pay $250, or $3 or whatever, the upper edge of what's comfortable for you, right? For my time. And then my junior is, more reasonable. So, hey, you know what? When you see the junior out on property, like measuring the mantle height or whatever, you're happy to see him because you're like, that's only $85 an hour. I'm okay with that, right? So
I look at it like, let's say on a given week, the junior designer is off that week and the lead designer is doing all the work. Like, I think it depends on how large the firm is.
Also, I don't actually care if it's one person or two people or five people. It is the task. It's the task that's the junior level task. Like, if you're doing the junior designer work, well, maybe not so much for a sole proprietor, but if the junior designer is out that week and you have the senior designer doing that job, I think it's the expertise level. It's the tier of work being done, not the actual person being assigned to it.
I guess
that's how I would do it.
So I'd say the majority of my clients are sole proprietors or sole plus one or two employees, right?
Okay.
And sometimes it is a junior designer, but at the same time, as the boss, do I sound Long Island or what?
As the boss.
As the boss.
I love
it. You are assigning tasks that you do not want to do yourself, or you're not available to do.
Or you don't want to do yourself because you just don't want to do that anymore.
Right, but sometimes you're doing them because you happen to be passing by to return the polls or return the samples. Right. So to me, as the boss, it's my choice whether I want to do it myself or assign it to a junior. And from a client perspective, they're paying the company rate. Right? And again, I'm not talking about a larger firm that says, I'm the principal designer, somebody calls, I already have 15 clients going on, hopefully. And then the 16th client, you can't have me till October. However, I have a trained junior designer on my staff, and instead of being $250 an hour, she's $175 an hour. She has been trained by me. She has my aesthetic. I still oversee, and should there be a problem, it's still my company's liability, and I will step in. Would you like to use her? That is the time, in my opinion, when you start charging a junior designer rate, not when you're still the lead designer. Because most of the time, Julia, what's happening is the junior designer is sitting there at the computer sourcing, and the lead designer sometimes got to step in, they got to answer questions. So now you actually have two people working, and you're only charging for the junior designer. So I just feel like profitability-wise, if they change that mentality that it's my firm that I had two people working for me for Expressive Living. One time a lawyer said to me, well, how do I know that you're not looking for the artwork versus Barbara? And I'm like, it shouldn't matter to you in my firm who is looking, because in the end, it's my final say what I present to you. He was a lawyer. So in his firm, you got the junior lawyer or the less experienced lawyer, you got the lead lawyer. So he did think about that distinction. But I just think for smaller firms that there are two people or three people, to charge less for that junior, they're losing a lot of money. And it's really their choice.
If they're charging for every hour.
Yes, I agree with you.
Skimming. If they're not skimming, because that's what I was seeing a lot of.
Yeah, I get that.
Walk your talk. If you're going to charge that, then charge that. And you have to be worth it. You have to be worth it. So when you send out that time billing invoice, you're confident. If you get pushback, you're like, that's just what it takes, my friend. That's it. That's interior design. And be able to have the gravitas and the resolve and confidence around what you're charging to really back that up. And it's all about energy. And that's the other thing about this calculator tool that I love, because I've seen like designers look at the numbers and really be able to price accordingly. And then when they're getting pushback, they're just like, I've run the numbers, and you know what? Someone might charge you less, but they're not sustainable. Like, it's not like hitting the general basic metrics for running an interior design firm. So you know what? You can shop at Kmart if you want. Go for it.
Right. No, it's true. And the service, if you're charging properly, your service has to match that.
Exactly.
And your professionalism and your aesthetic and everything has to, your systems have to be in place in order to justify
And also, what I like about this tool too, this discussion that we just had about whether I charge less for my time versus the junior designer time. And one of the things you put in there is the percentage. Like, how much of the job am I going to be doing? Well, I'll probably do half of the work. The junior designer might do 35% of the work. And then, the remaining few percent, maybe it's the expediter doing everything, like, placing the order, following up, getting it shipped. And so you tell it what percentage, how much you're paying that person or yourself, what the pay rate is, the cost to the company per hour for that person, and then what you're able to charge out for their time. And what's great about this is this whole like theoretical conversation that we just had about what's going to be more profitable. It'll tell you. Yes. And so you can put in your, one rate for everybody and see what your gross profit margin would be. And then you could say, well, what if we did me at a higher rate, a lower rate for the junior, and now let's see what the profitability will be. And the spreadsheet tells no lies. It'll tell you, oh, you know what? I actually make more money if I'm just a flat rate and just let it, you can tell. And that's what I liked. That's why I developed the spreadsheet, because I was sick of these like just throwing ideas out there and hoping it's right. Like, I'm like, this shouldn't be a mystery. This is like, lawyers don't do that. Like, this is like a real business. This is my livelihood. I'm supporting a family. I want to send my son to summer camp. Like, I got to bring it on. This is no joke. I need to know the real numbers, and instead of like guessing that we're hoping that was more money.
Right. And I think it's a great tool also for the whole forensic audit at the end of a job, right? It almost may be where some designers need to start is by analyzing the last job that they did in this tool, and then determining, well, what was their profit margin on that job? Yeah. And then, boy, did I underestimate my hours.
Yes.
Right. And I think you had a factor in there. I looked at it a while ago. You had a factor in there. And I screwed myself on this, but my father used to call it the Jesus Christ factor, right? The percentage over is terrible. My father was a contracts negotiator, and he used to call it that you make sure you always have. I remember I had a big commercial job with artwork, and I thought, oh, let me call my father because I'm not sure how to price this. And he goes through his shtick with me, and then he said, make sure you have the Jesus Christ factor, the JC factor. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, because shit's going to go wrong and you want to make a cushion in there. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? And in interior design world, constantly things.
Yeah, constant. Well, the one thing that I have is a non-billable hours column. So, you kind of factor, well, I'm going to bill some of this. By the way, I just had this conversation just this morning with someone saying, well, what should they be billing? How much of their time should we be billing out? And I'm like, well, the standard metric that I see as effective for an interior design firm is 70% for anyone on the design team. So if they're working 40 hours a week, they should be billing out at least 28 hours of their week. So that's the baseline metric. And that means the rest of the time is non-billable. And obviously not all of that time.
That if they're working a 40-hour week.
70% of 40 is 28.
So your assistant or you both, really?
Well, yeah, but you know what? As a principal designer, it's hard. Yeah. I don't find it really going much over 50% on a consistent basis. It's usually around 40 to 50. You might hit periods where you're up to 60 because you don't have as much marketing and whatever, but there's CEO stuff, there's marketing, the website design, copy for this and ad for that, photo shoots, like, I don't ever see that number consistently being anything over 50.
50, yeah. And, I go over this all the time. I actually wrote myself a list somewhere here. The CEO responsibilities, right? Trying to get that owner of the company, you guys who are watching, you guys are the entrepreneurs. You're the face of the business. Mm-hmm. Right? So getting that time to market, to collaborate, to socialize, to know your numbers, to meet with your accountant, to meet with your lawyer, to review all those documents on a yearly basis at least, you need time to do that. So yeah, Julia, you're right. It's like they can't be billing out themselves constantly when all this background banking and everything is going down the toilet.
Yeah, they can't. So I have one of the tools that comes with a product that I sell is the business blueprint. And that's kind of like every document, flow chart, contract, kind of business in a box kind of thing. But one of those things that I have in there is a CEO task list. I think it's 7 pages long.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I don't think people realize how much they're actually needing to do that they're not doing.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. And I have like a little thing where you can kind of schedule how many hours per quarter that you think that task will take. And then you start, plugging it into your calendar because, as business owners, we don't have anyone to keep us accountable unless they hire someone like you, or me. Right. So, it's easy, nothing bad happens if it doesn't happen, versus like client work. If you don't do that, something bad's going to happen pretty soon. So It always gets pushed to the back burner and you don't have anyone, calling you out on it and saying, girl, you better get this done. Our meeting is next week. You're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I had a client once. I'm like, okay, your profitability seems good when I look at it from how much you're charging the client. Where's all the money going? Next time I want a list of all your expenses. And it was like, get rid of that. Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Those two programs do the same thing.
Uh-huh.
But perhaps you haven't had time as a CEO to investigate that program does the same thing as the other program capabilities, right? We must have eliminated, I don't remember how much it was at the time. It was probably $1,400 a month in expenses that she just didn't realize she had going on. And listen, I even did this in my group once. Everybody look at their credit card statements for the next 3, and I was guilty too. I had gym memberships that I haven't used,
Ain't that a bitch? Yeah. Don't we all have the gym membership?
Yeah. The gym, it's not an expensive one. So I kept letting it go, but yeah, like what are you paying for every month? You're paying for your iTunes and your gym membership and all these things that do you use them anymore?
Yeah.
Right. And to go back. So Joyce said, regardless who is doing the work, you still have the cost of business and overhead expenses. Look what I can do. Can you see that I can actually post it? The comment. Are you seeing that?
No.
I don't know what screen you see.
I'm afraid to click on anything, Nancy.
Okay, okay, so the cool thing about Be Live is I can take somebody's comment and actually show it on the screen. So when you rewatch.
Okay. I will totally rewatch this.
It's showing Joy said, regardless of who's doing the work, you still have the cost of business and overhead expenses.
Yeah.
Which she posted when we were talking about how the junior could possibly be billed out at the same rate, in my opinion, if they are not the lead on that job, because the head designer is busy on other jobs and would put you on a waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, smaller firms, I know it's a business model that a lot of architectural firms use.
Yep.
Right. The junior architect. Mm-hmm. But again, when you think about it, it's because the lead architect is unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like we give it up. We give it up too easily.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're still the ones paying for, the interior designer is still the one paying for the insurance.
Right. Workers' comp, insurance, holidays. It's all. So what the standard metric is to add 30% to their pay rate as like that buffer to cover. And it varies depending on what your compensation package is. Right. But rough estimate is you take what you're paying them per hour, break it out into hour, and add 30%. And that's actually their cost per hour to you.
Them $25 an hour. You're saying add 30% to that because on payroll, you're paying Social Security tax and you're paying
their employment tax. I'm like, why are you taxing me? I'm making you money with come on, I'm just a small business here,
I know, but they're killing the small. New York State was after me for I can't tell you how long for the employees that I had. And I'm like, really? I'm like a little guy. Like,
yeah, like go after someone like that's not making a lot more than I. By the time we're done, there's like barely anything left. What are you trying to do to us? You know?
yeah, no, it was definitely a horror for me. They were just, you have employees working in the house, New York State compensation, and I'm like, really? Like, you're trying to kill me? They billed me like you cannot believe. I was like, I no longer have anyone working in the house because I couldn't stand getting the mail from them.
Yeah, it's enough to make your heart sing. This is why we need to be making the big bucks, because we put ourselves through that kind of shit. Like this is stuff we have to deal with.
Like, exactly. So I know we have about 15 viewers right now. Does anyone have any questions for Julia or I about pricing? I know it's such a hot issue. I mean, I literally talk about it every single day with my clients. And it does. It depends a lot. You can create the structure. This is how you should price. But like you said, when you see that bottom line, you're like, how can I sell it to them now? How can I couch it in the presentation where it's something that I'm going to actually be able to justify?
Yeah. And justify it to yourself. Like, you've got to be able to sell that to yourself and feel like, yeah, that's a bargain. And that whole, like, if you're really confident about what you're able to do for that amount of money, it's your energy shifts around that number and they feel it unconsciously or whatever. And you get a lot less pushback. And even when you do get pushback, you're not like, well, this, and this. And then you have to explain your entire business model, which I feel like it's not their business. Like, none
of their business.
Like, either own it and sell it or don't, but don't explain your whole life story in there.
I mean, I'm sure you say the same thing. Do you go into the dentist and ask them, well, why are you charging me so much? How much are you paying that hygienist? And how much are you paying for your rent? And how much is your insurance? Like, we, as an industry, often let the client bully us instead of just going, and I have a very simple sentence. This is the cost of doing business. If I'm not profitable, I won't be here for next time that you need me. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't running a profitable business.
I love that, Nancy.
It's so easy, right? And don't give them, well, I have a 30% markup, or really, if you have to, you say, I work on a 30% gross profit margin. Often nobody knows what that means anyway. Yeah. And it works. But in the end, you don't really have to tell them anything. I just want to hear Joy said, let's see what she's, I'm going to put on the screen. I would like to purchase. She said, I would like to purchase the profit sheet. Will it be part of the event at Costa Mesa? Oh, we got to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, Costa Mesa. Bold logistics. Woohoo.
Right. And Joy is one of my clients. So tell the listeners what.
Okay, you guys. For them. So, because Nancy and I talked a little bit, and I'm like, Nancy, you are so awesome, and I want your clients, if you feel like it's appropriate for someone, I want you to be able to offer it to them, and I want them to get a cool deal because they are smart enough to be working with you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, it's true. People that invest in you are saying, you know what, I'm ready to go to the next level, and I'm ready to invest in my business, and I'm just freaking going for it. And I respect that, and I will support that any day of the week.
Thank you.
So because you're Nancy's client, you get a super awesome promo code for the calculator tool, and it is Nancy Rocks.
That was not my idea. I just want you guys to know that was not my idea.
That was not her idea. That was my idea. I'm like, oh, let's make it Nancy Rocks. This is good. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll go with that. I'm like,
it's all in caps too, Joy. It's all in caps. Nancy Rocks.
Nancy Rocks, all in caps, all one word. And you go to my website and juliamolloy.com. And when you go there, on the top menu bar is a tab that says shop. And then you'll see it's called the billing. I think it's called the billing boot camp. It's either called the billing boot camp or the pricing model boot camp.
Let me see if I have it up on my.
I should know this.
That's all right. You have a lot of things up there. So you're not getting a discount on everything. However, on the
On the billing bootcamp. So I give you not only the calculator tool, and it's an Excel spreadsheet. It all comes to you in a Dropbox that we share with you as soon as your order hits, our email. And you get, I think isn't it $100 off? I think it is.
I got to try to remember where you were very generous. I remember that. I think it was $100 off.
I think it's $100 off your order. So in the cart, after you put it in, and you go to checkout or whatever, it'll take off $100 for you.
You type Nancy Rocks in all caps.
It's like ask for the coupon code. We've all done that. We got the coupon code and then it deducts the code. So Nancy Rocks in all caps, all one word. And it's the billing bootcamp, and it has the Excel spreadsheet, but it also comes with, remember that interview that I was talking about with Mark Malinsky? It has a recording of that.
And it came with more than just the one thing, because you shared it with me. I was grateful of that, so I could know what I was offering to people.
Because when you get that Excel spreadsheet, you're going to be like, okay, so how do I use this? So it's a little seminar thing that I did, like a little hour-and-a-half long webinar thing that I did, kind of talking about billing and the pricing structure and kind of how this works. And then there's another video that's actually just deep diving into, okay, plug in this number here and that number here and figure out this and go over here. And then you see, like I walk you through using the calculator tool. So it's a few videos and the calculator tool all in one little bundle. And I think it's the pricing bootcamp or billing bootcamp.
I started to look at, I think it was on your homepage. So I'm just looking at my other screen.
It used to be on my homepage, but now the Bold Logistics is on my homepage.
Okay, wait, now talk about that. Okay.
Oh yeah. So
let me just make sure we don't have any more questions. How do we get the chart Julia made? This is from Stephanie Sarro.
Stephanie, go to my shop, Julia Molloy, MOLLOY.com. Click on shop, type in billing bootcamp. I think I should, really, come on. I'm
looking to see if I can find it real quick.
There's a search. There's a search right there.
Oh, there's a search. Okay, hold on.
You can type in the word billing. And you can type in the word bootcamp. And it'll show up.
I'm not seeing the search. I'm seeing default. Yeah, okay. And you can always come in after and put a link to it.
Yeah. So the Bold Just Logistics is a little 2-day super powered seminar. It's like a workshop that I'm doing in 4 locations this year. And it is specifically designed for boutique model firms, which is people with like 2 to 5 team members ish, like small, but like not giant, but more than just a sole proprietor or planning on being someone with a couple of team members, maybe a junior, maybe an admin expediter, and so it is going through all of the kind of workflow strategies for increasing that efficiency. I go through in detail the billing strategies and the gross profit margin. And I talk about up-leveling your brand. So refining all points. First of all, identifying what your brand is and kind of how it shows up, which can be a challenge. Like, your aesthetic, your brand, but how does that translate to what is on my website and kind of how my logo looks? It's hard to do that for ourselves. And I've got an interior or a graphic design background. So I've created many hundreds of corporate identity packages, many of them for interior designers. So I help you to figure that out for yourself. And it's small groups, like a couple dozen. So it's really collaborative. I mean, the one we did in Dallas was just a couple dozen people. And we had laughter, we had tears, we had it was kumbaya, man. And everyone was just blown away and, sending me thank you notes, and I got flowers, and people are like, this just changed my business. It's changed my life. Holy cow. I can't even.
Oh, that's great. And okay.
That was my heart, right? I'm like, okay, it's worth it. I'm doing good things.
You know what? I think that's what some people understand, and other people I'm not sure understand that. You know what? Yes, we're coaches. We want to be compensated for what we do. But the greatest thing anyone could ever say to us is that I'm making more money. You changed my business. I'm happier. I'm more balanced. And I love what I'm doing because I worked with you. Like things like that are what gives us goosebumps. And we're like, oh my God, it's like, this is why
I do it. Like,
why I do it. This is why we do it, baby.
I'm looking on my website. I actually don't even
found it. I put a link in.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
what
Billing
is it called?
Calculator Tool and Billing Model Bootcamp.
What is it called again? Wait, say that again.
Billing Calculator Tool and Billing Model Bootcamp.
Okay.
I found it. I put it in, and then I wrote use coupon code Nancy Rocks in all caps for a discount.
Yeah. So that's how you get that. And then also the Bold Logistics is happening. The next one is happening in like 3 weeks from now, 2 or 3 weeks. June 11th and 12th in Costa Mesa. So that's like Southern California, the Orange County. And so we've got people coming in from Northern California, from Arizona, Pacific Northwest. And it's just a small little group, mostly women, I think, which it usually is. And it will help you to understand exactly what you need to up-level your brand, team structure, workflow, like how to get that efficiency number. I kind of cover all bases. And the other cool thing is that because I'm doing just small groups, it's very like personal. Like we're all in like a horseshoe. It's not like this big stadium kind of thing. It's like we're all facing each other. We're like in a little huddle. And so I'm like, okay, guys, what do you need? How are you feeling about this? What's your challenge? And people are like, well, I'm good with that, but I'm really having a hard time with, hiring this person and whatever. I have this situation with my team and, I get everybody's life story. We all share. Right. And then we just like, okay, this is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do.
I like that. Oh, Joy is asking, she said, yes, $100 off. I did find it, but wondering is the calculator tool included in Costa Mesa? So if
it's not included, I'm doing like a little bundle thing that I'm doing at Costa Mesa. And that is where people can buy the business blueprint at a discount, and they can also buy the calculator tool at a discount, but it's right about what what you're getting for people. So it's not like, much more than that, I don't think. And then I also have this thing where people can pick and choose 10 documents out of my business blueprint. So I print out the table of contents and I say, for this price, you can pick out any 10 that you want, whether it's a job description or a contract or, you just circle the ones you want, and that's a set price. I do make it really beefy and, like really worthwhile. So everyone's totally stoked. They're like, best 2 days ever. Done. Easy.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. One of these days I'll get to one of your.
Well, I'm doing Southern California now, but come September, I am doing one in Pacific Northwest here in Portland, but we're also looking at doing one in New York.
Ooh.
I think so. So Nick May was actually at the one down in Dallas. He stopped by for just a little bit. He couldn't make it the whole time, but he stopped by for a little bit. And I would be honored if you would come and maybe do a little Q&A with people. And
I would love to.
Have some fun with it.
I would love to. Yes, definitely let me know when you put that on the calendar. I would love to be there.
Yeah, that's good.
I did 2 years of hunkering down. I'm not going anywhere. I'm building my business and I'm not going anywhere. Now I'm breaking out. So I'm going to
Vegas. I know. Sometimes you got to do that.
And that, right? Don't you tell people that? Sometimes you just have to say no to things, right? So now I'm starting to say yes. So
Are you saying yes? You're saying yes, Nancy. Does that feel good?
I'm going to Vegas for the markets. A presentation there, and my parents live there. So I get to spend my mother's 81st birthday with her.
Aww.
It'll be nice. It'll be around the same time, and I'll be in Naples, Florida in October.
What are you doing in Naples? Are you doing like a speaking thing, or?
I am. I'm a keynote speaker at an IDS Naples chapter event in July. October. I'm getting all confused.
That's awesome. Aren't you like the head of IDS something? Like you're like some like queen, like you wear a crown, and stuff?
No crowns for me, but yes, I'm the president of the IADS Interior Design Society virtual chapter. I'm a national board member, and I'm the past president of the Long Island chapter.
Woo-hoo!
So I think I'm a lifer. You know what I do? I love the organization. It's a great group of people. You know what? It's a sharing, giving environment, which for interior designers sometimes is hard to find. And when I ran Expressive Living Art, Framing, and Accessories, one day I got the light bulb. Who are my ideal clients? Interior designers. And I went to a meeting, and next thing I know, I was being voluntold that I should be vice president. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that. And then I became
You left that meeting going, what just happened? What just happened?
Yep, you know what? But that's the way it works in the IDS world. You see, someone who you go, you would be so good for the organization. And it was nice that someone identified me. And now I help identify other people and say, you really should be. Right. So now I'm a brand new virtual chapter. We've never had one before because now I have all the technology. So why not? So if you don't live near a chapter of an industry organization that you can be part of, we're bringing everyone together virtually.
That's so great. And also people get really busy. They have families, they got little kids and stuff. And so, I think that's so helpful. And it adds to efficiency because you're not driving across town or wherever. And you actually engage. You and I
are all about efficiency. So there you go.
I know that's how we think, right? I can't help it.
Time management. So we are 1 minute over. So how can we get the chart that Julia made? Go to juliamolloy.com. And I actually posted a link in the comments, Stephanie, so you should be able to find it there. So, Julia, thank you so much for being part of my weekend wind down.
Thank you for inviting me. I adore you. I so appreciate everything you do for this industry, Nancy. You are kick-ass, girl. Cheers to you.
I look at your stuff and I'm like, my brain doesn't work that way, so I'll just refer them to Julia. Cheers.
I love you so much. Thank you. You do rock.
Thank you.
Nancy rocks because Nancy rocks, you guys. Keep up the good work. And
I try. So for anyone who is still struggling to grow their interior design business to the next level, I have no more one-on-one slots, but I have 4 spots left in groups. So I'm happy to have you. If you're interested, just private message me and we'll figure out if it's the right fit for you. So Julia, have a great weekend, 3-day weekend. Try to relax a little bit.
I will. We just made s'mores on the back deck last night. We're getting ready.
Nice. Yeah, my fire pit is ready. My boyfriend just landed. He was on business all week in Florida. He just landed. It might be a fire pit weekend.
Yay! All right. Well, have a great time. Thanks for inviting me.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to share if you found this valuable. Thanks. Bye.
Have a great weekend.